Let's go to Shooter Breeze topic number 5 tonight. Hold on, let me make sure I set that up properly. It's already Shooter Breeze topic number 5. So, Shooter Breeze topic number 5 says, why is it taking so long? Shooter Breeze topic number 5 says, could it be said any better? Reference 19 Keys and what he had to say about Africa. You guys in the chat, drop a 1 for me if you are familiar with 19 Keys. I'm loosely familiar. I don't follow the brother, but I have a little idea who he is. You guys let me know if you're familiar with him. Let me make sure you guys can see. No, you cannot see my screen. Okay, my bad. 19 Keys on Twitter. Sharing with you guys now. You guys should be able to see it. No, maybe not. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that, guys. So 19 Keys on Twitter says, why y'all get mad when I talk about Africa? So this is a just over 3-minute video. We'll watch it and then we'll comment to it.
Peace, family, on my way to the gym. But I want to understand why y'all get so mad when I talk about Africa. I want to understand from my black American brothers, man. It doesn't make any sense. It don't give you more power. It don't stop you from actually building home in America. You having this overt identity pride in American soil, right? Doesn't mean you building shit. Doesn't mean you have any power. Doesn't mean you getting money. Doesn't mean you developing a skill set. Because all that time that you can take for the vigor and the hate that you have for the African brothers, you could just be building outside and developing wealth in a country that you claim to love so much. Because I know I've done more in America than 99% of y'all. You feel me? So for me, when I look at Africa, it makes both business and cultural sense that if I'm thinking about Africa as an opportunity for us to go out there and build with the brothers and sisters. I'm from America, for sure, for sure. I know my history in America, and I know how great we are. I know about the warrior class and the innovators and the inventors that we come from, right? I don't need some fake sense of pride to have some war on Twitter to make me feel like, I'm some great black American patriot. That's fake and that's false and that's fraudulent. You feel me? That's you trying to escape the insecurities of not actually doing something with this land and this time and this opportunity that you have in America. So, when I say Africa is the future, I mean that shit, damn it. That don't mean that our opportunities, we are the present. So take advantage of that. We've been the present. You feel me? But Africa, at this place where the average age is 19 years old, right? And a lot of these places lack infrastructure. It's easier to build a future over there, right? There's a lot of opportunity. I get hit up by countries that have textile factories and things of that nature that want to do business. You think I'm not going to do business with my African brothers because of some people on Twitter that don't like it? You sound stupid. It's a reason why the Indians and the Chinese are there. It'd be best, more adaptive for us to do business with each other, right? But for those who have the right spirit and not just trying to rob each other. Now, there's a lot of corruption that needs to be weeded out in Africa at the top from the leadership. There's a lot of infrastructure that has to be built there, right? I know people who went out there and created porta potty businesses and made millions, right? You can take simple ideas in Africa that they don't have and you can build. So you take your degrees and your knowledge and your skill set, but only if you got the right mindset. Don't go over there as a colonizer. And I'm not going over there looking for myself. When I already found myself, I already know who I am. You see the sun, moon, and stars on my hat. You know what I'm saying? I'm going over there as a God, speaking to the people, figuring out how we can do business together, do trade together, right? And having the art of global allies. We've lost that art of global allies. You think you're going to win by yourself? How? When we divided in America by every single thing that we can think of that divides us. Every single day you're looking for another reason why you don't want to work with somebody. That's weak-minded. So anyway, Africa is the future. We are the present. Let's build together. Peace.
So, I realized in the video, he kind of just jumps into his response. So what I wanted to do is find I wanted to find a video where he talked about Africa originally. But instead, what I'll do is, and this guy, I've had him on the show before, Maj Toure retweeted Africa is the future. I just want to share this with y'all, let y'all hear a little bit of the commentary from Maj, I guess. So this is Maj.
It doesn't mean you're developing a skill set, because all the time that you can take for the vigor and the hate that you have for the African brothers, you could just be building outside and developing wealth in a country that you claim to love so much. Because I know I've done more in America than 99% of y'all. You feel me? Africa is the future. We are the present. Let's build together. Peace.
Solutionaries, that was 19 keys with back to back facts. So many facts. It's a factory. I want to give some pros and cons and a little bit of context to what I think the brother was saying there, and just add a little bit of the perspective. Getting attacked on social media for doing something that most people are not doing. If you were not aware, Keys has been over to Africa, Egypt. I just think he just came back from Japan or something like that. We follow each other on the socials, right? The people that have not traveled internationally and do not have a thought process of I can do X, Y, and Z, a lot of times they hit social media and they get mad, specifically when you start talking about Africa, because there's been a certain level of like self-hate ingrained into a lot of so-called African Americans. Y'all haven't done anything. You mad that I'm talking about Africa and these opportunities, and me doing this over here has nothing to do with why you haven't built anything where you at when you say you this patriot. Now, for those that don't understand what a patriot is, I'm a patriot. A patriot is a person that loves their countrymen and their countrywomen. Most patriots hate the government that they're so-called under. I do not fuck with the United States government at all. It has been corrupt. It has killed leaders of all backgrounds. Obviously, you guys know the story with Dr. King. You guys know the lawsuit, proving the CIA, FBI. You already know all of that. I do not fuck with the government. And in my opinion, Keys falls as a patriot too, because it would be hard pressed to say, whether you like Keys or you don't, you'd be hard pressed to say that he doesn't care for his community. Okay. So that patriot conversation as it relates to people that only identify as a patriot with no work and or results that go along with that, those people usually hop on social media and just say shit, especially when they are identified with the self-hate virus, right? So you get the self-hate virus, you get somebody that's doing something, you haven't been nowhere, you haven't built anything, and then you give them social media. So I think he's making reference to some of those folks. As far as it relates to Africa, I've been to Africa 3 times. It's been years. Ghana, Senegal, Egypt, years. I started going to Africa when I was 19. Quick story. I remember going to Senegal first. I was in Dakar. We tried to learn how to speak Wolof. Very difficult language to learn. Anyway, where I worked, the owner of a spot in the spot down south where I worked, his family was like, yo, you want to go to Dakar? And I'm like, yeah, I'll go. And so I was nervous because I had that thought process that, oh, all of the Africans over there hate African Americans, right? That's what we've told. So as I'm over there, I was there for 2 weeks. And as I'm over there, I remember the first few days and everybody was so loving and kind and just generally like nice. And I told him, I said, yo, y'all, I kind of had y'all pegged wrong, pause. I thought that y'all on the continent or in this country didn't rock with African Americans. And they laughed and I said, what's up? They said, damn, we were told the same thing. So somebody in the middle putting salt in the game to make sure that people don't work together, okay? And my lived experience, it's anecdotal because it's my 3 times on the continent in 3 different countries. It's another sidebar. Africa's a big ass continent. It's got a ton of countries in it. But my experience in 3 countries in Africa was not what is being told to us. Now, as far as the political corruption, absolutely. Like South Africa a few times, excuse me, 1 time, but not for long enough to really get a good beat on it. But corruption, okay? Infrastructure problems, absolutely. The only thing that America might have up on that is America has generally solid infrastructure across the country. But when you look at it as Africa being the breadbasket for the rest of the world and all of these countries coming in and corrupt leadership selling the resources, selling the minerals for pennies on a dollar, right? For their own individual gain. You got to look at, if you let a place be instead of extracting all of the time, then okay, you're going to have some infrastructure issues. My point in saying that is America might have infrastructure, but America, you taxed all over the place, right? There's pros and cons to each scenario. Now, what Keys is saying as it relates to you going and looking at the opportunities in other nations, especially a super black nation where countries like Ghana have been like, yo, come on back. If you're African American, let's rebuild that bridge. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But you shouldn't go over there with this mentality that I'm just going to extract, and not build bridges and it be a mutually beneficial exchange.
I'm going to stop that there because I think that's super important. I talked about that a few weeks back, or maybe a few months back. One of the problems with a lot of repatriation is folks end up really going back to the continent to undermine the people there, whether knowingly or unknowingly. But you go back there with your U.S. dollars, and you go and you get into some industry, some local industry there, and because you have the U.S. dollars behind you, you undercut the people there. But that's a different story for another time. The idea here is that 19 Keys told his African American peoples that Africa is the future, and a lot of people had pushback. They didn't like what he had to say. My goodness, they didn't like what he had to say, and so here we are. In the chat, Bakari, BBN Black Business Network said 19 Keys is a scam. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with him. It seemed like he got on this FBA type of bandwagon recently. So there's that. Trigger Happy 262 Plus in the chat says, I saw some recent tweet from him that said Pan-Africanism is a psyop. I think he is somewhat of a fence sitter. So, there's those things. Provide Triggers is familiar with 19 Keys. Icon Fire says, I know him, but these conscious Americans don't want to go to Africa. That's a interesting conversation that we will have now. But first, let me welcome our brother Black Steel this week. Black Steel, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm just getting in. Ran into a little traffic, but I made it. Man of my word. Glad to be here.
Appreciate you. All right, let's hang out for a minute. Let me get to some of the other folks, and then I'll come to you next. Let me mix it up a bit. Let me go to Buana. Buana, what say you to this?
First of all, let me say that Black Seal, I'm happy you're here. You should have been here a long time ago. It's 10:21. I don't know what you're doing. This is CP time or something. But let me just say, um, I am not trying to convince anyone. Well, let me say, I'm not trying to convince the African American community that they need to travel more and be exposed more. That is the job of people like Black Steel. That is the job of people like Anthony McPhail, and that is a job for them to do, to expose them to say, hey, get a passport, travel more, interact with your global Black community more, because see these people every day, so that's their job to do that, and how I personally look at 19 Keys, even though what he said is very true, is very true, and what this brother said, I think this is brother with Black Guns Matter. I can't remember his name now. He is a person who pushes Marjorie. What he said was very true as well. I mean, it's nothing what these brothers say. I disagree with. On a personal level, I watch the magical hats. Whenever I see these young brothers come with these magical looking hats, I question from Brother Polite time. When Brother Polite used to wear that nice little funny style hat, and then uh, uh, Dr. Umar Johnson like to wear these African hats. All of them like to wear the funny hat. Malachi York wear these hats and stuff like that. I'm very leery of these guys, brothers, man. I'm very leery of them. I ain't saying that they gonna do the same kind of actions as these guys. I'm just saying I find them very questionable from time to time. I don't have no axe to grind with this brother. I wish him well. He said he represent the sun, moon, and stars. Is he Nation of Islam? I don't know what he is. Is he? I don't know where his background. I don't know what his ideology is. I just see him out there like a
I
Billy
think
Carson. He's Nation
I
of
think he's
Islam.
5%. I think, yeah.
Okay, so they put themselves out there and they doing their thing. I ain't trying to be a spoke in their wheels. I wish them much success, but on a personal level, from the Brother Polite stages and all these other guys, I relaxed off of that. Yes, these brothers say is good, but I just sit around. I want to see what the work is before I get involved in what these because people talk. They talk very big. They talk very big about who they exposed to and what they doing. But I just like to just take it easy and go slow to find out who these people are, what their background and what their work actually is before I make a judgment on them personally. But as far as what the brother was saying, I agree with 100%. I agree with. I'll leave it at Koku.
Appreciate that, Buana. Let's hear from Jacadero.
Yeah, I think the question for this prompt is like, could it been said any better? 19 Keys is questioning like why people, his viewers, it sounds like he's talking about Black Americans get upset when he brings up Africa. And just like I said with the last prompt, it goes down to finances. The Black Americans that might be upset when African Americans like 19 Keys or Maj Toure bring up Africa is because I feel that a large part of them don't feel like financially they're connected with Africa. I'll give an example like Detroit. Detroit has access to, I think it's the Detroit River that flows into Canada. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's residents of Detroit that feel like, well, how can I connect with Africa? But we have an international waterway that if goods from Africa can be shipped to Canada and flowed by ferry into Detroit, maybe just maybe now we could be talking about something. But for a large part, Black populated cities in the United States, they don't necessarily have that direct commerce with African cities. And so they feel like, well, what's the point? I'm not financially benefiting, so why would I? Why would I connect? Why would I want to hear about Africa? You're just talking nonsense because it's not making any financial sense.
Appreciate that, Jacadero. Provide triggers.
Yeah, but
Says Muslim. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Buana.
yeah, but and I hear what Jacadero was saying, right? When they say, well, in terms of geography, but they never question where do you get the coltan from to speak to your mother on your cell phone every day? I mean, it becomes almost retarded, you go to Zales to propose to your woman. Where did them diamonds coming from? Where them diamonds come? You think they coming from America? Come on, man. See, like I say, this is the reason. No, Jack. This is the reason I say I leave these kinds of conversations to brothers and sisters like yourself because you maybe understand it better than I can, and
Mm,
brothers like brother Anthony McFall and Bakari.
mm,
Because it's like if you are thinking about how this chicken is made, then we will not never understand each other. If you think that Popeye's chicken, the chicken you get every day, is not produced on a farm from somewhere, they have to like take the feathers off, and then they have to import it, and then you have to make. You just think the sandwiches make itself. It's like, come on, bro. And this connection is the reason why it would be better for brothers with better understanding to be able to explain to the brothers who are close to them and say, no, it don't go like that. Coltan is produced in Uganda and they import that into because it's the most funniest thing. You may not find a connection with Africa, but your boss, your white boss, who you work for, she's been to Africa 100 times, and she's adopted a Kenyan little girl who lives with her.
Yeah.
They have root. They go the plane when they go to Kenya. The plane is full of European tourists.
So,
but
so
you have no connection. You have no. So for me, a person like me, I would just rather the brothers them like yourself and the other brothers to explain it because you talking to international people like myself. So when you hear a person like me, you don't go thinking, oh, ooga booga. Oh no, that's my brother from the Bahamas, you know. But whereas your other brother from Nebraska, who may have not spoken to a person like myself, may think ooga booga. Oh, he has Udo here. Come on, bro. Relax. No, it's not like that. It's really like this. So I leave that job for my brothers and sisters on the ground who have a better understanding to explain and give their brothers on the ground some better understanding of what's going on. But I'll leave it.
So real quick, because I want the other people on the panel to speak as well, Buana. You bring up coltan and how it can power the electronics like a tablet or a phone. Well, African Americans, they're like, well, sure, but also how does that flow into my neighborhood? And I give the example of Jewish shops and Korean shops and Arab shops and black neighborhoods. Those store owners, right, have a direct connection to Israel, whatever Arab country, whatever South Korea or Japan. And when I go to black cities, and I've been to many, right, it's far and few in between that we have African shops. And if we do, it's hardly ever when I go in there that I see other African Americans. And they might and I might see them and I might just think that they're Nigerian. But nonetheless is like they don't look at a phone and say, hey, the sale of this iPhone is empowering my neighborhood, right? It's like these dilapidated buildings that are in my neighborhood. The iPhone is probably the reason on why there's no money in my hood or why like we don't have a garden. Like I might be reaching here, but I'm saying that they're not connecting the dots because again, it's not in front of their face. And back to the first, I think it was the first or second prompt that we had about the UNIA and its principles, and one of them was politics. And if we don't have politicians in the United States, especially from African American communities, campaigning for a free trade agreement with these African countries, again, I bring up Detroit, is like Detroit should be one of those cities that has a direct connection financially and politically, a free trade agreement with like a Senegal. They have a sizable Senegalese population in Detroit. They can get Senegalese goods transported directly to Canada and have that flow from the Detroit River into the city of Detroit. So that way people can actually see like, okay, hey, you know what? The country of Senegal is empowering this neighborhood because the goods that are not necessarily grown here because of the weather most of the year, I can get that. I can get the avocados. I can get the teak wood. I can get the pineapples, et cetera, et cetera.
You are your generation, and I want to answer that, Jacqueline. Your generation is in the global economy. Where I say is the economy has become very small now because you could touch the world. At the we talk about Detroit now. At the time of, let's say, Kwame Kilpatrick, the internet was just coming around. Okay, so our communication in terms of speaking wasn't because we didn't even have a YouTube yet. Yeah, we didn't have all these apps and things where we can communicate.
Good point.
Now, yeah, now the time is much. I am speaking to you from Nebraska, and I am in the Bahamas. I think that you're probably even in a different time zone, but
Yeah.
we could connect via WhatsApp and make these kinds of strategic kinds of plans to have a better relationship with one another on the ground. You could ask, what could I could produce here that will sell on the streets of Nebraska in your community? And in the same thing, you could do the same thing to me. At the time, our elders, they didn't have this kind of technology that was useful. So now that we have this technology that's useful, I think that we could be able, like people like yourself, to use it to your advantage and be forward looking. How could we use the technology on the ground in Nebraska to be able to create a better relationship across seas, oceans, continents?
Mm.
So I think that that is the job of the younger person. Well, not all of us, really, all of us, because I'm not going to remove that responsibility from me. But in particular, the younger people, because they are more apt and skilled with the technology and what it could possibly do.
That's awesome. And earlier you talked about hospitality, and coming to Omaha. I also ask you the same question. If I come to the Bahamas, would I also be reciprocated with the same hospitality?
Oh, definitely. For me personally, I look at it like that with Brother Bakari and people like that. My thing would have been is their money is no good here.
Mm,
Their money is no good here. So, well, if you bring your family within reason, because I pay for hundreds of people, but within reason, your money should be no good here. And
mm,
in the same respects, if I was to touch down in Omaha, Nebraska, my money should be no good there either. That is
absolutely.
your responsibility. You understand? So this is
Absolutely.
the kind of relationship that we should be trying to foster with one another. That's where I am with it. But I'll leave it, Coco. I don't want to interrupt the show. Bro.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I like the
I mean,
conversation.
you might as well. Hell,
You already come here on CP time. You come here on CP time. Now you're talking.
um, let me hear from Cheryl next. Cheryl, you've been waiting patiently. What say you to "Could it be said any better" in reference to 19 keys in Africa? What say you?
Okay, I have no idea who this guy is, but it sounds, I can see his confusion. I'm not sure of his political angle or anything, and not sure of any of the things that he said on any social media platforms. But he sounds like he's frustrated that more Black people are not giving back to Africa, and um, I know personally, when you ask most Black people about Africa and hey, let's do this in Africa, let's do this, they get to talking like white people. And that's not just African Americans, that's Caribbeans, that's if you live in the UK, even on the continent, they sound like that. And anytime you ask a Black person about um, like any African spiritual systems, especially like voodoo, what's the first thing that they say?
That's
It's a
that
devil. It's a
black
devil's
magic
religion.
bullshit.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
evil.
Yeah.
Witness, yeah.
Like, what's the first thing that they say? The first thing that come to your mind? What's the first thing that they say?
Yeah, it's that black magic bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, or it's that witchcraft. Oh, you're going to do that spooky, spooky stuff. And my question to everybody on the panel is, where does that come from? And how does that affect our relationships with people on the continent? So, and that's just something to think about. So, also in tandem with that, um, how Black people are more invested in humanism than than their own African selves. And even on the continent, you ask them about their own spiritual systems. Some of them may have, if you go like deep in some of the villages, they'll have knowledge of their ancestral systems. But if you go to the main cities, they are talking crazy. Like they act like it's witchcraft too, right on the continent. So it's this idea, and what I'm trying to get at is Christianity essentially, and not just Christianity, but the trifecta. You know, Christianity, Islam, the Abrahamic religions. This idea of humanism and how it's like destroying who we are as a people, and it's stopping us. It's like cutting off our connections. And so not just what it's definitely in America because my family members, I have some family members that as soon as you say Africa, they think, oh, the mud huts and oh da 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 da. I got some family members like that. And they sound just like white people. But why do they sound like white people? Because that's white people's frame of thinking. And their frame of thinking is you can see it through their religions. So we are in their religions deep, and that's why we think like that. So it's more than just like self-hate. It's psychological. And I'll end it there.
Appreciate that. Cheryl, let me unmute Anthony and get his thoughts on Should Be Stop number 5. Could it have been said any better in reference to 19 keys and Africa being the future? Anthony, let's say.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. On the brother 19 Keys, I check him out sometime on IG. He go live. He do a lot of live shows on IG. Now, this is the red flag that comes to me when I hear you talk about gods and earths, the 5%ers, the Nation of Islam, the Moors and all that. Right then, already kind of like, okay, yeah, I kind of know where you coming from. Now, what he said was good. What he was talking about, Africa being the future. What he said was good. And sometimes we have to say we have to look at it like this, in my opinion. Okay, let's listen at the message. Let's don't look at who gave us the message necessarily. Okay. The message that he gave was good. Okay, now outside of that, we don't need to we ain't gonna put him up here and say well, this is a guy that we need to look to, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I don't really fool with him. I don't really fool with him. I listen at him. I listen to some of the things he say. You know, to me, he say a lot of problematic things. So he talk out of both sides of his mouth. Is what I'm saying. Okay, so getting him out the way. All right, this whole thing. This is what I look at. You got Fiddler. You got it. Okay, we're gonna talk about African people. Now let's talk about African people right here in America, and this problem of this hating Africa and hating anything African, hating our traditional belief systems and all this here. Okay, you got Fiddler, you got Kunta Kinte fresh off the boat. You know what I'm saying? Fiddler said, Kunta, your name ain't Kunta no more. Your name Toby. Don't come here with that African stuff. Talking all this, speaking in that African language. Don't come here with that African religion, with all this stuff. You in America now. That was his famous word. You in America now. You America. That whole mindset is what African people in America think of for the most part. Think like in the most part. I mean, we're not talking about us who come into consciousness. We talk about the African man and woman being bought here, being stripped of their language, stripped of their culture, stripped of their names, stripped of their tradition, their belief systems, and saying, okay, you ain't no African no more, you a Negro. You know what I'm saying? And you here now. Okay. And this is where you live and you're on this plantation. And we can't see past the plantation. Even on the plantation today, we still can't see past the plantation. So we see a brother like DC Young Fly on over there, or any brothers and sisters going over to Africa and having a good time, man, and seeing how it's changing it changed their life, it changed the way they see things, their whole perspective. Remember Malcolm said back in the 60s, he said we need to go back to Africa. Now Malcolm wouldn't talk about going back to Africa physically necessarily. He was talking about us going back spiritually. You know what I'm saying? He was talking about us going back spiritually to Africa, culturally, and re-embracing what we lost. You know what I'm saying? That's what Malcolm was talking about. We need to restore our African mind, man. He said, you out your African mind. He said all about I ain't left nothing about the Negro saying I ain't left nothing in Africa. He said, yeah, because you left your mind in Africa. So he was talking about us restoring our African mind. So one of the main things is it's the consciousness. We got to rebuild the consciousness in our people. That we lost, and that's why right now you can hear him saying stuff like this here, and all those old rubbish and all this old stuff that you hear Negroes saying now. Another thing I want to say, one way for us to start is right here. Okay, Bwana was saying some thing about okay, I'll leave that to you, brothers, you Black American. Okay, Bwana, and this ain't no jab at you, and no jab at nobody. I'm not a Black American, man. I'm an African. I'm an African in America. You're not a Bahamian. You're an African in the Bahamas. Brothers in from wherever you from in the diaspora, man. We gotta put this in our mentality, man, because we still call even on this panel. And this ain't jabbing at nobody, but we still call each other by the same name that the slave master gave us. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying we ain't looking at ourselves as being African. No, I'm an African. When you call me a Black American, and I'm not mad at you or nothing, but when you call me that, it's an insult to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm an African in America. Okay, you're not a Bahamian to me. You're an African in the Bahamas. So I'm saying, even at this level, even with us who has a country, we gotta go a little bit deeper and realize some of the stuff that we said with our mouths. Now, how we gonna teach somebody when we doing the same shit? You know what I'm saying? So we got to build that consciousness in us, man. We got to build that consciousness within us, and we gotta get back to our Africanity. We ain't no Bahamians. We ain't no Black Americans. We ain't no Jamaicans. We ain't no Haitians. You know what I'm saying? Hell, you could take it to the continent. Now let's take it to the continent. In South Africa, how in the hell can white folks come over there, East Indians and all kind of other people come over there and live in South Africa and do what they do, exploit and do whatever they do. But when a Zimbabwean come there or a Zambian come there, they call them a foreigner. How can a Zambian be a foreigner in Africa? You know what I'm saying? I mean, hell, they basically, I've seen the video, they basically lynched this Zimbabwean brother. But the white man can walk all around there owning 75% of your land, owning all of the mineral wealth, all of the diamonds, all of your everything, whatever you got up under the soil, he owns. You know what I'm saying? Whatever firm you work for, it's probably his. You don't own shit. You got a couple of Negroes sitting up in the government. They're saying we the government. You know what I'm saying? But they get paid by the white man. But the only thing you could do is take that out on who? On your Zimbabwean brother, on your Mozambican brother, on your Nigerian brother. Man, they got the way they characterize Nigerians, the xenophobic people, not all South Africa. But way the South African characterize Nigerians, man, it's like how white folks characterize in America. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even on the continent, all over the world, we get back to loving each other, man, respect each other, and see each other as African people. You know what I'm saying?
I think Anthony was kicked. I don't know what's going on with his. Okay, here he is again. Let's see. Anthony, finish your thought. Oh wait, Anthony needs me to unmute his mic, right? Anthony, finish your thought if you can. If not, I'll go to someone else. In the meantime, seems like Anthony can't hear me. But in the meantime, let me go to let me introduce Brother Bakari this week. Brother Bakari, how are you this week?
I'm great, my man. How about you?
I'm good. Bakari, what are your thoughts here?
I came up to tell you because not the crap on what 19 Keys said. What he was saying made sense, right? What he was saying made sense, and even what Anthony said made sense about take the message, but not the messenger. But the reason I put in the chat 19 Keys, the scammer, it was him, Ben X, and some other Nation of Islam 5%er, whatever. And they had started some black business school. I forget exactly, black business something. It was BBB. I forget exactly. But anyway, they took up a lot of money for that school. Time was supposed to be teaching classes. And man, they took up that money, man. They ain't never teach no class though. The school they supposed to have. That's why I called him. That's why I said 19 Keys, the scammer. But what he said made sense. And like I said, I understand what Anthony's saying, but since I've heard this messenger a few times, and he flip flop, and he'll flip flop sometimes. But I agree with what Anthony. I do agree with what Anthony said about take the message. Don't worry about the messenger at this point, because I agree with some of the things that he said. Because, like I said, what he was saying, some of the things that he was saying was making sense. So that's all I have to say on it.
Thank you for that, Brother Bakari. I hope you and Sister Raw squash whatever's going on out there.
Oh, let me say, since you said I have no beef, people have beef with me because I am who I am, and I ain't gonna switch up who I am. No, she can say what she want to say. You don't have to. Thank you though, but maybe they can be upset with me. I'm okay. People been upset with me a whole lot. This ain't the first time people been upset. Won't be the last time people upset. So it is. Look at it. She said I would send her some money. Raw wants some money. So now she trying to say I asked her for some money. Raw wants some money back that she sent to help to purchase a couple of books. That's the money she's asking for. She's asking me to give money back that was given for books. Because you know I have my book drive, right? And on my book drive. So when she says something about money with me, I'm telling you what she said, the books that I buy. She
Okay.
want money back for books.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what it's about, but I'm just saying I hope you all
Well, I'm saying I'm telling what it's about, because when she put in there talking about I'm a scammer, trying to act like I stole something from her, she's a damn lie. She donated money for books.
all right. Well, I appreciate the clarification there. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One brief thing, because Anthony say something that resonated with me. They'll work that out. Bakari had wrong that out. But yeah, the brother say that he don't see himself as African American. Now, th- Anthony, I would say this when I'm speaking to people like yourself or Brother Bakari, your brothers and are ahead of the curve. Okay, so I don't want to offend y'all, and when I speak and say certain things, y'all are way ahead of the curve. Y'all ahead of the class, and I'm not speaking really specifically for y'all. When I speak to y'all, it's a greater kind of conversation because y'all on that divine level and conversation where y'all understand things. For me, at a level to where I have to speak differently when I speak into y'all. But bro, just I the reason why I say what I say in separation is, bro. Sometimes I'm on this internet, you know, much times I've been called ever and shut your mouth up, and you can't talk about our business and our business. I've been talked to crazy on this internet simply because I have an accent. So many people may not see me as, oh, we are one and the same. So sometimes this is the reason why I do that. But I understand to your ears that sound like poison because you're not even on that level. So I don't want to insult you in any way, and I don't want you to take it as an insult, bro. I just reacting to what I've been specifically told not to talk about by African American people, but I understand your perspective, and I say you are absolutely right in what you say, and I don't want to offend you at all, bro. That's not my intention, but I understand where you're coming from, but like I said, man, I've been talked to crazy and say, shut your mother, you old island, whatever. So sometimes this is the reason why I say I will let the brothers from America speak on certain topics and certain issues. You know, but you are absolutely right in what you are saying. Absolutely. You are absolutely right. Make no mistake about it.
Yeah, Brother Anthony fell off the panel and seemingly can't get back in with sound. I know I didn't change anything since the show's been going, so I'm not sure why that is, Anthony. But in the meantime, I can find a chat says, how can gold, diamonds, cobalt not be sound financially? Um, Provide Trigger says, I think that 19 Keys knows the power of psychology. I have seen on his YouTube channel his self presentations with the optics of a Huey P. Newton. That's a very interesting thing he did there. With black, she goes on to say, with black jackets and sitting in a wicker chair, with the round back and all, as if he's a Black Panther Party member. KW Dawn 7 says, Africa could be the future, but for who? Uh, Let me see if there's anything else. So yeah, so those are the comments from the chat. With that said, Black Seal, you've seen and heard everything everyone else had to say. What say you?
Well, couple of things. First of all, Buana, I got stuck in traffic coming out of Disney. Okay, if you've never been to Disney World, that traffic is insane coming out. So that's why,
Orlando, right? This is Orlando.
yes, that's why
Oh
I'm
yeah,
on
I
CP
saw that.
time because
I
this,
saw that traffic before. Yeah.
yeah, that traffic coming out of Disney is awful, terrible. It's going 3 miles an hour. Anyways, so couple things I agree with. Some things I didn't agree with. Number one, I do agree he's a scammer. My knowledge of 13 key of whatever the fuck, 19 keys comes from what I've heard about him, similar to like Bakari mentioned his black business school and some of the things Dr. Jared Ball talked about him on uh, Black Liberation Media. Um, Talked about his earn your leisure and his black business fest and whatnot. He's really big on black capitalism and investing and all that other stuff. And that in and of itself it makes my spider sense tingle a little bit. I would really ask him when he says black Americans have a problem when he's talking about going to Africa, right? I gotta ask him which black Americans. Because we have to realize that much of our online discourse has been infiltrated, right? And I really doubt, I'm not saying there aren't some self hating black people, but most black people that I know personally aren't really that bothered. Not really. But a lot of times, these ADOS and these FBA accounts, there's something about them that's so agenty, right? Right. The energy they give off, it's just so hostile. There's no talking, there's no communication. You coward bitch, you fucking tether off, whatever, whatever. And I'm just like, I had an interaction with one on X, Twitter, and I literally asked him, "You talking about Pan Africanists? I living in Africa," and I said, "What is the word? What does the prefix of Pan mean?" Oh, you would have thought I was talking about his mother. Oh, I mean, he just went off on me. And I'm like, this energy, it doesn't seem like it's coming from actual people. It feels like these are bots. It feels like these are people who are meant to create confusion and discord among African people. Africa is the future. And one big reason is because Africa has the youngest population in the world. Many countries and continents are actually below replacement level when it comes to births. Europe, for example, Japan, United States, for example, they're below replacement level. Africa is not. Latin America is not. The Middle East is not. So when we say Africa is the future, because most of the young people coming up in the future are going to be African. And this is a demographic crisis for these racists and these white supremacists. Um, Black people in America, I would say, general Black people, Africans throughout diaspora, we have low racial esteem, and all the negativity that you hear about Africa and Black people on that white people consume, Black people consume it too, and it makes it very difficult for them to move past that programming. I think it's a really strong mind that's able to ingest that type of information and not hate themselves. And that is exactly what it's designed for. Pan Africanism, even economic, cultural ties with Africans to the diaspora to the continent, is something that white people fear above all else. And they will go to any lengths to prevent it. They'll tell us to our face, oh, it doesn't work. It's a scam. Meanwhile, you have pan-Europeanism. Every European settler colony supports the other one, no matter where in the world they happen to be. You got Donald Trump literally talking about letting white South Africans come to the United States as refugees. Okay? You had one settler colony, the United States, shipping another settler colony weapons to help exterminate an entire group of people. So they'll say Pan Africanism doesn't work when we live under Pan Europeanism and don't acknowledge it. The hatred and the violence that Europeans have had within themselves. There's no equivalent to that in Africa. There's no African equivalent of World War One, World War Two, the 7 Years War, 30 Years War, 100 Years War. You know, you can't look at Africa and see African people at conflict with each other like that. But yet white people can do that, and yet they're able to work together for a common interest. But black people can't. So, you know, that's one thing. Two, another thing I would say as far as black people not connecting, not going over, not traveling, black people don't have no money. And I really can't state that enough, right? Median income for black people in the United States is like 42,000. You got a few outliers that's doing really well. But the average person, black person, is really struggling to make ends meet in this country. Not hell, the average white person is struggling to make ends meet in this country. Um, so a lot of times they don't have a lot of residual money to travel. If they do any luxuries, they'll probably put on credit or something they have to save up for. So then their mind, they're not connecting with thinking about trying to build connections to that. So I would say when he says people are upset, which people are upset by it? Is it these clowns, the Tariqites and those who follow Yvette, whatever? They might be upset. I gotta say, most of my interactions with people in the diaspora has been very positive. Um, I went to a last week. I went to a African Arts Festival for Zora Neale Hurston. So I'm pretty sure everybody knows who Zora Neale Hurston is. But when I went there, everybody was wearing dashikis. Everybody was wearing had African art with mask and garb. There was African man out there selling soap and shea butter and beads and things like that. There was no, oh, you a tether. We're not gonna buy your stuff because I didn't see that. That didn't happen because he saw me. Are you ready for me, my brother? You want to purchase something for me? I give you this. It was a smooth business transaction, but not just that. It was the interaction, just even outside of just buying stuff, the communication. There was no hostility. I'm really questioning when these people talk about all these issues between our people, right? Because in real life, I don't see it. And I'm on the ground. I don't experience that. So, one more thing. Something about black people not building anything. I think that what he mentioned about why we. First of all, that's a goddamn lie. And I hate when people make that statement because you're really going to ignore how the United States government and private citizens have done everything possible to destroy, undermine, and attack black people when we do stuff. I mean, the list goes on and on. They're still doing it now. So don't say that because that means you just don't know history. I'll leave it there.
Good stuff, Black Steel. We have a moment here. Let's have I guess, a free fall conversation. So, any
Kofi,
last? Yes, sir.
yeah, I have a request for you. Please, indulge me. I want to play a clip for the African, well, for the American brothers. I know Anthony don't get mad at me. Could you play that Trudeau clip that I put on the Bitter Medicine promptly for tonight? Play that for
Yeah.
me, please. I want them to see that.
Well, do you want to do it as a prompt or just play the video?
Play the video. We could talk about it. I mean, if the brothers could spend a couple, like maybe 10 minutes talking about it if they want to. But I wanted them to see that because I really wanted their thoughts on it.
All right. So what I'll do, I'll play it as a prompt so that we don't burn it. But before that, is there any last thoughts on this prompt here? All right. So what I'll do, let me queue up what Juana's